Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Big Daddy Teej back with another build/fashion video as we go into the raid this Saturday, Vow of the Disciple. I'm so excited to be able to share with you guys this new fashion that I'm going to be coming up with for today's look, alongside the Void 3.0 supportive build I'm using to integrate into my team and try to ensure the best odds of success come day one and contest mode being on in the raid. We're going to start by taking a look at what I'm taking advantage of in the actual Void 3.0 subclass, followed by the armor build that I have put together to support that subclass, weapons, and then ultimately we're going to get into how to make this look a little bit more lore focused and centralized going into the Throne World's first raid on Saturday. Right, so let's take a look at Void 3.0 subclass. I've been using this thing for the last 2 weeks, like so many of you Guardians out here, and we have found some incredible builds. I think that this one I've put together is pretty unique. It's going to provide me with a lot of survivability and help me support my team in the ways that count. So let's take a look here. So to start off with, I am using the Mobius Quiver version of Shadow Shot. That's going to give me 2 and 3 because of my exotic Shadow Shot shots to be able to suppress, volatile, and weaken up the AI, and then also do some damage if I can land some direct hits on big bosses and other foes. I'm using the Gambler's Dodge so that I can dodge near enemies to get my melee back, and that's going to feed back into using cloaks to cloak myself and my allies when we get into tight spots. Triple jump, it's just my favorite jump. You can kind of use whatever jump you want, but this one works really well for me. Snare Bomb is the only option here in the Void 3.0 subclass for melee ability, and I am choosing to use Vortex Grenades because I am not doing a suppression build. We have another Void Hunter in our team using a suppression build, and I will be using Vortex Grenades to apply damage and get melee back. So let's take a look at my aspects. Trapper's Ambush, or as I like to refer to it affectionately as Scatter Dive. Falling from the sky to activate Quick Fall. Spend your melee charge and get yourself clouded in a bit of smoke for invisibility and disorientation. They weaken your enemies. And you can also just throw it on the ground, or you can slam. It's up to you guys. It's pretty fun. Been really enjoying this one. And then Stylish Executioner, the kind of other, the second of the 3 aspects here, which gives me invisibility when I defeat a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target, which obviously I'm going to be doing a lot of that. So it's going to give me a lot of invisibility, a lot of recovery time to be able to get out of tight spots. Not using Dodge Cloak on this one. It's just not as good for supporting a team and being able to do damage and cloak multiple people when they need it. So avoiding that one for this build. My fragments here, using Echo of Undermining, my Void Grenades will weaken my targets. Using Echo of Provision, damaging targets with grenades grants melee energy. Melee Final Blows start health regeneration for you and nearby allies on Echo of Leeching. Now this is where it gets to be a little bit unique. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about this one. The Scatter Dive does a pretty decent amount of damage when you drop yourself onto some red bar ads. I don't know how this is going to work inside of contest mode, or if I'll really want to displace myself that much to take advantage of it. But in the event that I do get a kill or 2 with it, it'll be great to start health regeneration in those spots, be invisible, and then also start health regeneration for my nearby allies. So pretty excited about that. Plus, you can't argue with 10 plus resilience in contest mode. Finally here, you'll see I have an aspect, Echo of Dilation. Now this is because the Trapper's Ambush only has 1 fragment slot, but Dodge Cloak here actually has 2. Vanishing Step has 2. So when I had equipped this earlier on, I did equip a 4th fragment for just to be able to crouch and sneak faster. It gave me plus 10 mobility, plus 10 intellect. Now, I obviously am not getting the crouching, sneak faster, enhanced radar resolution on this anymore because I'm no longer supporting 4 fragment slots. However, if you look at this build here, the actual 10 plus mobility and 10 plus intellect do stay on my build. If I look to change this to a different fragment, even though I can't right now, you can see that on the left-hand side, my stats do change. So now that we've got a look at my Void 3.0 choices along with the stats distribution I have on my character, we're going to take a look at how I'm using armor mods to support this build. On my helmet here, I've got an arc helmet. The element on my helmet at this point doesn't matter, but it is nice to be able to pop in a Seeking Wells mod. If we take a look in here right now, I am going for a Rocket Finder, the new Psionic Forging, which complements the bow I'm using, and this artifact mod, Font of Might, which is available as a combat mod for 4 energy, but this season is available for just 1. Picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants you temporary bonus to weapon damage of that same elemental type. So that means I'm adding more and more damage to my bow. Coming out here on the Gauntlets, again, not using too many elemental specific mods. Impact Induction, causing damage with a melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. This is really just to help me get more grenades faster. This may end up having to get swapped for an Unstoppable mod if we run into those types of champions, but for now I'm only running Bow Barrier and Overload Void Grenades to be able to handle 2 out of the 3. On here, I'm also running Elemental Ordnance to be able to defeat a combatant with a grenade that will match my subclass energy type. And that's, of course, going to be Void, which feeds back into Font of Might, which powers up my Void bows. On the chest piece here, I'm running a lot of resistance. So you're going to see I have a Void resistance and the new seasonal arc and solar damage resistance. So I'm running all three elements aside from stasis. Resistant damage mods. Not really too worried about reserves on a double primary weapon build. And I think that we'll be using rockets in an effective way that I won't have to have any kind of reserves on for that. I'm also pairing this with Well of Tenacity. So this says that picking up a Void Elemental Well reduces the damage you take from combatants for a short period of time. This got a huge buff this season where it's actually doing a lot better work than the old Protective Light mod used to. Protective Light now protects you for a longer time, but against way less damage. Well of Tenacity now protects you a lot firmer, but just for a shorter amount of time. I think that that's going to be more useful for me, getting away with cloaks and things like that, to have high damage resistance for a shorter amount of time every time I pick up a Void Elemental Well. On my boots down here, again, not running too many weapon mods. We are going ahead and doing a Absolution and a Better Already mod, so I can get my health back when I pick up an Orb of Power. I can also grab all ability cooldowns a little bit when I get an Orb of Power here. Partnering that in with Reaping Wellmaker. After activating your class ability, so in this case my dodge, my next weapon Final Blow, no matter what element that weapon is, on a combatant spawns a Void Elemental Well. This is big because what this means is I can kind of create wells on demand without having to have my grenade up. This is just another way for me to go ahead and grab another quick Void Elemental Well to power up my Void weapons, give myself damage resistance, keep the synergy going. Finally, down here on my cloak, again, a lot of artifact mods on here. Running an extra little bit of discipline combined with Devouring Depths. Casting your Void super while critically wounded or benefiting from Devour increases your damage with that super. My understanding is that Warlocks have a way to offer Devour to teammates, and we're going to be synergizing with that during the raid. Overload grenades here just to be able to take care of some extra champions. This was a little bit more of a concern before today's patch when they announced that they were fixing the SMG and auto rifle mod to stop the overloads from healing. So this may come off in exchange for something a little bit more useful like a bomber. But then finally here, Volatile Flow, and this is the big one. Picking up a Void Elemental Well grants your Void weapons volatile rounds. So again, this is the third benefit I'm getting from picking up a Void Elemental Well, and this is going to give my bow and any other Void weapons I happen to use throughout the raid volatile rounds, being able to apply volatile to an enemy simply by shooting them. Pretty cool. Now we're taking a look at my weapons really quick. This is not necessarily a finalized build. This is what I'm going to be starting with. But really, this is centered around having good diversity for multiple areas of combat, and also not really knowing what we're going to be fighting against as far as shields and other types of enemies inside the raid. So right here, we've got a Palmyra B rocket launcher. I built this thing, and I've been leveling it up slowly. This is an Impulse Amplifier lasting impression. This got a huge velocity buff today, up from 10 to 63. As part of Bungie's hotfix, so I'm actually really excited to give this a try. If I find that this isn't working or the lasting impression is not doing optimal DPS or getting me out of situations fast enough due to its delayed explosion, on deck I've also got a Red Herring grenade or rocket launcher here with Ensemble Golden Tricorn. This partners in really well with my Void build because I can grab a quick kill, throw a grenade for another kill, and then have boosted rocket damage again for tougher opponents to be able to dole out rockets with high DPS. In my middle slot for now to start off with, I'm using a bow. Under your skin, it's Void. I'm primarily using this for the Unrelenting, Turnabout, and Volatile Rounds abilities it's going to have. So what we see here is it also has Land Tank, which is the seasonal intrinsic mod, which says Final Blows of this weapon grant increased resilience and additional damage resistance from combatants. So this is all around my Protect Yourself bow. So right now I have Unrelenting. I'm going to get healing on multi-kills or kills on yellow bars. Turnabout, breaking a shield with this, or Guardian, but in this case for the raid, just a shield, will give me an overshield. And then, of course, grading kills with Land Tank is also going to give me some damage resistance and protection. So really, really good for this high-end content here. And, of course, I'm supporting that with the seasonal anti-tank Psionic Forging 2 mod here that says increase the duration of the Land Tank origin trait and the effect of the Hawkeye Breach armaments. In this case, we're just looking at the Land Tank origin trait on that bow. Up top, finally, I've got Striga. This has been my favorite new exotic in a long time. As you can see in just the couple weeks here that we've had this, I've accumulated almost 1,600 kills. Weapon level 17. Catalyst is all finished up. This thing is an absolute monster. I think it's going to 100% slap come raid day. It's got great range, great overall DPS. can overload the magazine due to its exotic perk up to about 106 rounds, which is absolutely nutty. And I'm really looking forward to seeing just how much havoc I can wreak with this, especially having infinite ammo come raid day. So now that we've taken a look at the build mods and weapons I'm going to be using on this first day, what we want to do here is I want to take some of my fashion and start to focus it a little bit away from kind of the rogue guardian of the throne world that I've got going on right here, and center this into like more of a Vanguard's champion heading into find out what's going on in the throne world, and something a little bit more heroic, a little bit more noble, a little bit less kind of on this bounty hunter, you know, more rugged look, and something a little cleaner. A little bit more indicative of a guardian being sent in, you know, by Zavala and Ikora to handle business. So, and before we get started, really quickly, just going to rerun over the echo process so that way you guys can understand how I go about making fashion and what helps me to make sure I define the right look. So important up front is to identify the theme. Again, I've just gone over it. It's going to be a more heroic emissary of the Vanguard going into the throne world to dispatch whatever darkness and evil awaits there. Color palette, I'm thinking about leaning into some of the new seasonal colors with a blues and golds, royal blue and gold, potentially some purples, kind of looking at that seasonal kind of Keitels, Oni-inspired gear, potentially leaning towards more of a bright color, maybe some white. Really want this to stand out, be a very, very ostentatious kind of look that makes my Guardian impossible to miss amidst the murky darkness that's sure to be in the raid. So, as you guys probably remember, Echo stands for exotic, chest, helmet or hood, and outward from there. And what we're going to be going over today is starting with the exotic, which in this case is my boots. How we're going to start with the fashion and get into building this into something that's going to be absolutely outstanding. Tie into my theme and just look spectacular. So, E for exotic. That's going to be, in my case, the Orpheus rigs. This best supports my build via their exotic trait, giving me an extra shot for Mobius Quiver. And so from here, what we want to do is we have a couple of ornaments to evaluate, along with shaders that are going to fit into the color palette I've already kind of predetermined. Looking at the default, just from a silhouette perspective, trying to figure out like what actual look I like about these, you can see that this has some more utility, you know, stitched on pads, you know, drawstrings, kind of overlapping layers of armor, plating, and leather. Not my favorite. Kind of the same thing here. We have this kind of more like ghillie suit inspired netting and leaves that appears on the boots, again with layers and pads. I think we're going to stick with the ornament that I had already have equipped here. This is a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more maybe Awoken inspired. Obviously, bows, arrows look great in the hip quiver here. And it just kind of comes down to being just a little bit cleaner, a little neater. And I think it's going to do better with shaders as well. So as we look into some shaders for this, taking a look at some of these seasonal ones, I really like this shader. I think it looks really neat, but it is a little dark. I'm going to try to lean into something a little bit lighter. So let's test a few of these out and see where we land. Here's a great example of one that really doesn't quite fit the bill, but almost does. This one has a little bit too much brown in it to really be viable for the color palette that I want, but this kind of color diversity is what I'm looking for. This kind of bright white, nice void purple pink reflective arrows in the hip quiver, some purple strapping here. The ratio of colors is great. I just don't like how much brown there is. This is a really strong contender. I think Oiled Algae really does well bringing in gold, white, and navy blue. I think it's a very, very formal look. I think it really brings some of that refined energy that I'm looking for this look. This may be a really good place to start. I'm definitely going to preview a few others to make sure that I don't miss any great choices, but this is looking like where we may end up for this one. After careful consideration, we came back to Oiled Algae as this kickoff centerpiece for this new look. And as such, crossing off the E in Echo, we'll be moving on to the chest piece. This is one of my favorite new chest pieces that came in with the DLC. This sleek, leather-plated hunter armor from all the playlist activities I think looks outstanding. I really love the blue set, the gumshoe set that had a blank version of this. We're going to explore that as an ornament for this during the process of deciding my look. I think the Gambit Snake might be a little bit too sinister looking for the overall kind of more noble hero thing I'm going for on this one, but we're definitely going to explore all the options we have and see what we can come up with that pairs nicely with the silhouette of the Orpheus rigs. The Braytech chest piece has always been one of my favorite chests in the game, and I've done plenty of looks with it. I love this layered effect that this has in the navy blue cloth coming through with the gold plating on the chest. I also think that the hips are going to line up pretty nicely with my boots. Let's take a look at the front of this here. Okay, so we're not quite going to be able to make it with this ornament on the rigs. This canteen clipping right into the hip quiver for my arrows is going to be just a little bit too much busyness happening here on the side for me to support that chest piece, but overall that was a good first place to start. Moving forward, we'll be thinking about silhouettes that match the Braytech chest piece, but maybe don't include a left side hip pouch or canister of some kind. Something from a lore perspective that I find really interesting this season is this Throne World gear being inspired by the theme of the armor for Ikora's Hidden. We acted as kind of an honorary member of the Hidden during our investigation into Savathun and how she acquired the light, and it would be kind of neat for me to figure out a way to work in a piece of this gear into my look, given that it's not unrealistic to think that Ikora would be powering up raiding Guardians to head into the Throne World's various dangers. For now, I don't think the chest piece of this hunter particularly matches the aesthetic of the exotic I've picked. It's a little bit too much tech and sci-fi to match kind of the slightly more fantasy elements of the Orpheus rigs. It's a really good chest piece, but just not for this look. Okay, I'm really loving this one. This is an Iron Banner chest piece, and again, thinking about the lore of this season and Lord Saladin being so present as our Guardians take on so many different challenges, just like Ikora and Keitel, it wouldn't be out of the scope of possibilities for him to really have us lean into the armory of the Iron Lords to adorn ourselves with things that would offer us special protection going into a new and dangerous space. This chest piece silhouette really lines up well with the boots, and I think offers just the right color ratio that supports how the colors are distributed onto the boots. You can see we have these bright white stripes, and again, we have bright white stripes. A little bit of gold adorning the hip quiver and just a little bit of gold in the chest piece and these buckles. We're also able to work in some of the white fabric that you see kind of in the boots, so fabric being a consistent color throughout is great, along with the navy blue undersuit that blends really well into the navy blue of the pants. So moving into the next process in Echo, we go from exotic chest to head or hood. In this case, I'm going to start with the hood because I think it's a more prominent feature on hunters. I have been locked into this hood since it dropped in the Eververse at the start of the season, and I think that I'm going to make sure that I can use it during this raid first day, especially being on Void. I really like the idea of having the Void light bow already available on my back, and I think it's just such a nice and beautiful accent to go with the hip quiver that's on the Orpheus rigs. So from here, what we're going to do is just work a shader into the look of this new cloak ornament, which is called the Abyss Walker cloak, which is also so cool. And we'll see if we can figure out what's going to match best with the oiled algae that's on the chest piece and the boots. I'm going to guess right off the rip here that oiled algae itself is not going to be the play. And I think I'm not really loving this, and I can tell you why. I don't like the gray strapping here that kind of doesn't quite clash with the navy, but it makes the bow harder to see when there's the white back here. If the whole thing was navy, it might be a little bit of a different story. And then I really don't like this bright white here showing up on the kind of shoulder pad that is connected to where you rest the bow. So let's take a look at some other shaders and see what we can figure out that will maybe work a little better. Okay, flipping the script a bit, this is another shader that features a white and navy. And on armor, it ends up being really tough to match to a lot of things, but in this case, we get some of the navy, and we get it tied right into the oiled algae here on the front. It's not a blue cloak, but we still get some of that dark navy elements on the back, and I think it matches a little bit better than the one because it doesn't have a big purple hump on the shoulder. The white lends itself a little bit more nicely into the rest of the armor, and this is definitely the new favorite. Glad I tested a few extra ones. This is why it's important to always continue to go through and test, just in case there's one that's sneakily hiding at the back that's going to be the right one. And this was definitely that. Precursor Vex Chrome sealing the deal here for itself right at the end of the line of the collection of shaders. Pretty neat. All right, so now that we've picked out a cloak shader, the last pieces here are going to be helmet and arms. We're going to take a look at the helmet next. I'm kind of locked into the silhouette of this one. I really love this ornament, but given that we have some new options through the seasonal gear and other things I've unlocked since getting this one, we're going to test out a few things and see if we can't find something that works just a little bit better. For this, I'm definitely not afraid to lean into more of the armor plating because so many helmets don't feature any fabric. And one of those shaders that really lends itself well to some of the gold accenting that you guys see on the rest of the gear is gold leaf. It may end up being too yellow for this, but I want to kick it off to start with and see if we can't get something that really matches using it, because I think it'll help tie in that color palette just a little bit more. So again, looking at the ability to bring in some of the Iron Banner inspired pieces here, definitely have an awesome silhouette with the helmet going right into the chest piece, being pulled straight from the Iron Lord's locker. I love the gold complementing the rest of this look here with this particular shader on. I think that really, really sells it. The gold matches appropriately, and it ends up being really, really nice inside the silhouette of this hood. And looking at gauntlets again, I'm so drawn to this season's ornaments because of the void power that just seems to be emanating from them, and I think it looks really, really outstanding. I'm definitely moving away from the dark leather look, but given that these match so well and fit with the silhouette, we may end up trying to see if we can work some shaders into keeping these. Otherwise, I'm going to try to find something potentially from the season pass with some of the seasonal gear that might end up leaning into more of the Cabal armories and also tie in some of this new fashion to the looks. This seasonal gear is actually not bad on the silhouette side of things. I think that the blade on the arm is pretty nifty. I really like that it seems to be bringing in some of the Cabal adornments that we talked about, really wanting to see if I can work in. Right now, the biggest drawback to this is that this Vex Precursor Chrome shader, the gold is not the right color. I'm going to head back and check out Oiled Algae and see how that feels on it. Okay, so this is a little bit better. We get a navy undersuit and the nice light colored pale gold on here. I lose the cloak because I'm on a hunter to really browse this look overall. This is a very, very good silhouette. I think that it really, really lends itself well to being strapped and ready to go. Also, feeding into the fantasy of that maybe Master Keitel identified me as an archer, adorning me with gauntlets that would best allow my flow of combat with a bow. Seems pretty really neat, and I think fits into the lore that I'm kind of trying to build for this hero character going into the Throne World's raid. The only thing that's really bothering me about this right now is that this pale blue color is happening right up here on the shoulder, and it's very noticeable. It also is completely absent everywhere else on my gear aside from the knives. And I think that it's really that kind of hidden fifth color that sometimes pops up with shaders that really might make these unavailable for me to use because it's going to bother me if I know it's there. Gosh, these were so close. We have a nice navy undersuit with some high black arm wraps going up into some shoulder plating guards here, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, and maybe this is just a texturing on the gear that I never noticed, we get a little bit too much of like grandma's knitting here on the gloves that I have never seen on these gauntlets before, and they really taken me out of the vibe. I just don't know if I could rock some knit gloves out there in the raid. I might not be, my Hive Guardians might not take me too seriously if they saw me wearing Nana's gloves out there. Gang, I think we're there. I think these are the winners by far. Easy color scheme, easy silhouette, really capturing that heroic essence that I'm going for. Pulled some armor straight out of Lord Saladin's vault. And at the same time, got to use some new stuff. And feel like we're the hero of the Vanguard going in to lead the fire team to victory on Saturday, March 5th. Let's take a look at the final look all together. And here you have it, guys. This is the finalized look of Raid Day 1 Fashion Vow of the Disciple. This is a awesome look that shows the heroism of the Vanguard being represented by my Guardian going in to take on the dangers that lie in wait in the Throne World Pyramid ship. I cannot wait to show you guys this live in the raid this coming Saturday, March 5th, only on my Twitch channel. Twitch.tv/BigDaddyTeej. Hope you guys will join us there. It's going to start right at 11 a.m. Central Time. We'll be logging in, getting the team organized for the raid at noon. Also, feel free to use my code Teej at Gfuel next time you're shopping there for a discount. I hope that you guys will feel free to check out social media and Discord links in the description below. Definitely let me know what your fashion looks like for your day one raid. I can't wait to see how you guys utilize the ecosystem to decide on something that's really going to capture the essence of your Guardian's lore. As always, I've been Big Daddy Teej. You guys have an awesome day, and we'll catch you next time.